Hello and welcome to the Empowered Learning Podcast. This is your host, Andy Bennetts. On today's episode, we welcome Darren Ward. Darren has been a leader in the EdTech space for over 20 years. He's led a top-tier sales organization, pioneered an entire sector of educational technology, and remains a passionate advocate for how technology can improve learning for teachers and students. Welcome, Darren.
Good afternoon, Darren. How you doing, my friend?
Doing great. How's it going in Colorado?
Doing good. It's beautiful weather. We're finally shifting from spring into summer, so it's a beautiful day. So we'll love it.
Good deal.
How about Texas? You guys doing all right down there?
We've been rainy, so we're grateful for that because we know what's coming. So 3 months of drought or worse. So we'll take all the rain we can get.
I love it. Well, Darren, you and I have known each other in some capacity for, good grief, 15 years now. You probably didn't know me 15 years ago. I definitely know who you were and your dad was, and the wonderful company that you started. I got kind of pulled away from the education, not pulled away. I was happy to go at the time, away from being in the classroom into the wonderful world of education technology, and you and your dad's company was kind of the catalyst for all of that, and have actually had quite a few of the folks that have led me along the path. Steve Huff and Luke TV Baugh and Dee Larson, they've all been on the podcast before. So eventually we knew that we'd get back to the source of all of this, which is you and the Ward. So very much appreciate you spending a little bit of time and chatting with me today.
Oh yeah, no, you bet. So we pulled you out of the classroom because you were 15 at the time, I think.
Exactly, of course.
And
you
right. You went into sales straight from there. No, just have had a long track record with a lot of great people. You mentioned some of them, and brought a smile to my face, and still connected to Luke and of course to you. And it's been a great ride. It's certainly. Things have changed,
right.
and in education technology and education technology, of course. So we did, our team at eInstruction got on one of the early leaders of change at bringing clickers and interactivity into the classroom, which is fantastic. So that was a company that my dad started, but the team that led and ran that is still alive and kicking at All In Learning. So still about the having technology positively impact in the classroom and help teachers and schools and districts. Still kind of focused on that, just with different technologies and strategies and so forth. So we've loved being in this space, and kind of, it's as someone told me once, she said, the great thing is we're on the side of the angels, and that's the students and the teachers and the people that are doing them, and the leaders that are doing the amazing work every day. So anything we can do to kind of improve, help students learn, and help make teachers' lives better is a good thing.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. I actually posted a video on just my personal Facebook page a while ago. It took me, I realize we're just jumping into the heart of this. We'll backtrack and get your history in just a second here, but this is too good. It took me a long time to transition from teacher into, consultant salesperson. And there was a lot of psychology, I guess, that went into that, but you hit it just right on the head because of the awesome people that we've worked with and the companies we worked for, of having that heart of like, we are educators, just not in that space, right? Our heart is for educators. We want to make, I love the tagline, simple solutions, real results. It dawned on me during our conversation just a few days ago that while the technology has changed, the delivery, the mechanism has changed, the heart of what it is that you guys want to do, of making things easier for teachers, making data more readily available, impacting instruction in a real way that makes their life easier, that makes things more engaging for the kiddos. It's changed 100%, yet the mission, it feels like, to me anyways, has remained pretty much the same.
Oh yeah, no, it has, and it's students, kids are struggle in the classroom. They struggle to learn, and and that's normal. That's life, right? It's normal, but it's we've got to help teachers identify that, as early as possible so
Right.
that that student has the opportunity to grow and improve, because that's really nobody's perfect, and everybody is going to have those opportunities. So just making that, normalizing that, kind of taking the pressure out of it. We'll have to be perfect, but we're gonna progress, and we are going to grow along the way. So it's just trying to help facilitate that as best as we can with technology and data, and in ways to reach the students.
Right. Right. Awesome. Well, there we go. Now you have kind of the middle through. We'll dive into the future in a second. So we know where we're at. Let's find out a little bit more, Darren, about where you came from and kind of how you got to this point with All In Learning, and just some interesting facts along the way of your journey.
Well, yeah, no, and after we, had good success in the instruction, we still saw that there's a lot of room for growth in the space. And just as we had conversations with schools and districts, and it just still became clear that there was a need for, people were doing, there's kind of, as we were starting this company, there was the emphasis on data driven. So a lot of work, a lot of the work by Paul Bambrick, and some of those people. So data driven is a great, it's the name of the book, right? But it's a great strategy. But if the kind of the burden of that data collection and then data, kind of aggregation, analysis, and then acting on that is all kind of at that teacher, on the teacher or on the administrators to generate reports to help us get to that. Then it just became it became obvious that there was a need, and that kind of merged kind of our DNA of student engagement and immediate feedback into looking at other ways to collect data. And so we've had just had an emphasis on that, and things have changed. Of course, we still have clickers because. Hey, teachers a lot of times don't want to mess with 30 screens being open while they're talking, throughout class. But we adapted and added a web clicker so teachers can get feedback that way. But you had the iPad come out, you had Chromebooks proliferate, and then we had COVID interrupt everything, and so there's been this just evolving evolution of the need for data, but it's still just for a lot of schools and a lot of districts that we work with. The data when we get there is a lot of times it's that it's outdated data, or some call it autopsy data. It's too late to help the patient, and so our focus has been, hey, can we help you with this data along the way so we don't get to that critical point? We get there earlier and get there in a way that in a time frame that we can help student, help the class, and then ultimately help the school and grow and improve. Which again, I might delete this eventually here, but it just I love the connection point, and very, very different things. Yes, maybe the clicker is kind of the tie that binds between the two of them, and like you said, the awesome team that you've had for all of these years with some new people along the way. But it is about data, right? You have to have data-driven decisions. That makes perfect sense. But how do you do that? What's the easiest way to do that? Is that all on the teacher? And then is that an engaging way? Are you getting this after the fact? That was honestly, for what it's worth, from a classroom teacher, like you said, when I was 15, the idea of getting that data immediately so you can adjust your teaching on the fly and meet students' needs immediately, not after 2 or 3 days when you have time to go back and grade those. That was revolutionary in my mind in my early teaching career. It's like there's a more efficient way, and while being more efficient, you can also engage your students in a fun way. It was honestly a game changer for me. No, it's and there's still aha moments in scenarios with that immediate feedback, because if anything, students are swinging more towards being, introverts and less likely to speak out, and just with the kind of delving into being in their devices all the time, right? That's
right.
a less verbal way. And so helping those students communicate with the teacher in a way that they're comfortable, but it lets them know. And we've even done some things where we added into our platform and ability for the teacher to do a mood meter, like a check-in with the students that way too.
Okay.
So it's the same principles. It's private, it's anonymous, but it's a way for them to communicate in a safe way. They still have a voice, but no one knows how anyone answered. But now they could say, you know what, I'm in a bad place today. I'm angry, or I'm sad, or something like that. And so it's the same principle. Now the teacher's about to give a test, and they say, well, tell me, where are you? Where are you on the mood meter? And if everyone's anxious, well, the teacher can take that information and use it in a way to help the students. Okay, so let's review a couple of things about the test.
Right.
And let's breathe for a minute before we start here, so we can kind of diffuse a stressful situation.
Yeah. No, I love it. And that was another thing that I think I still to this day have to, I guess, defend the honor of the need or the usefulness of clickers, because people do put them in a box, right? They're like, oh, that's just a fun little thing that you do for games, which it definitely has that. The fact that it makes it fun is great, but I mean the impact. There was a couple of stories here, that the idea of just making things accessible for and what's the right word? For those kids that are shy, right? This is the story that I always use. When I was a third grade teacher, I had this adorable little Hispanic girl that was bright, but very, very quiet, not very confident in herself, would never catch dead of her raising her hand and speaking out. However, we instituted the clickers where she could actually get that feedback immediately. That built confidence in her, and you could just see light bulbs go off in the moment, where she would never have had that outside of that accessible technology that allowed her to get that feedback without having to be called out on it. So that was phenomenal. So there's the psychological aspect that hits. And then on this type of thing, where depending on the types of questions you ask and the purpose of the questions, which is another benefit that I, as the current owner of Interactive Learning, get to leverage from what Steve did, is that there's so much more to what you can get out of this than just data back for educational purposes. What is your confidence and ability? To your point, what is your mood? How are you doing? Right? You ask that on a Monday after a really rough weekend. That opens up conversations with these kids that you wouldn't have otherwise. And it honestly is kind of mind blowing when you think of the different ways that you can apply that.
Yeah. And just opening up a line of communication with students, whether it's about academics or their emotions, or wherever they're at. It's all important. It's all it all contributes to helping the student grow as a person and as a learner too. So if you can use technology to connect in a meaningful way, then it's serving a really good and noble purpose, right? It's not just technology for technology's sake, and which is what a lot of it is, but that's okay. But we can go deeper and do better with it, and and use it to really connect with kids.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Which, I love it. Which is why, honestly, for what it's worth, from someone that was a teacher that thought they'd be a teacher and an administrator the rest of their life, when I saw this and the application for that, the light bulb went off in my mind, and it was I kind of became, and I think that's why it took so long for me to adopt or accept the fact that I was selling things. It's because I was an evangelist, man. I'm like, this is the coolest thing since sliced bread. You're going to revolutionize your classroom. Your kids are going to get more out of this. We're going to give you more time back with your family over the weekend because you're not grading things. And I was then and continue to be very, very passionate about that mode of teaching, whether you use this clicker or that clicker, but just the thought process behind that and the impact it can make is pretty substantial.
100%. Just the intentionality of saying, okay,
right.
My kids aren't perfect and I'm not perfect either. So me being able to say, okay, I thought I did a great job teaching that. Let's see if they got it. And if they didn't, maybe I didn't crush that like I thought I did, and I should take another run at it,
Right.
So it gives a space for everybody to kind of breathe and be human, and and then figure out what we can do to improve and do better.
Yep. I love that. Yeah. And I won't get too far off on this, but it always, I was a young administrator. I was not a very seasoned administrator, but it always just boggled my mind that depending on the teacher, some teachers were very against any type of constructive feedback. I'm like, that's how you grow, right? I mean, so this idea of pausing and having time to reflect, to your point, no one's perfect. The administrator that's been here 30 years isn't perfect. I'm not perfect. The kids aren't perfect. So let's all grow together and get better in this. And that was definitely an easy way to do that, to incorporate that. So
yeah,
absolutely.
That's great. Yeah.
So Darren, I'm very interested because, like I said, we knew each other through e-instruction days. Again, you were the big guy creating all this stuff, and I was this lowly salesperson that was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So we didn't really connect very much on that level, but through Luke and Steve and Dee, I kind of touched the rarefied air that you guys were in. I don't know how much or how or when things changed from e-instruction. I know you guys sold to turning, and then 2-3 years later, I hear about this all-in learning thing. So tell me a little bit about the story of, kind of wrapping things up with the instruction, kind of what your genesis was, or what the purpose of creating all-in learning and what that looked like.
Well, I think the company grew, and there's kind of a new ownership group that kind of wanted to take it a new direction, and we had had a tremendous time and just great relationships and everything else. So super grateful for that experience and everything. So when we wound up, leaving and wanting to, we just felt like the work wasn't finished, and that there would be opportunities moving forward. So we wanted to, pursue that, and that, the 9, 10, 11, 12 time frame. So you kind of had the iPad happen. You had, whatever the financial crisis and the money that came into education, then it kind of dropped out. And then we've seen history repeat itself to some degree with the ESSER funds and everything. But there was still room for that space. So so we kind of were coming up with other ways to capture data, which included student devices, which included scanning with your everybody started to have an iPhone, right? So a way to scan bubble sheets, and because that was really the mode of assessment then, was just kind of the multiple choice type scantrons. And so we created an app and did some things to capture data around that, because that was that was a pain point, just like getting feedback in the classroom was a pain point as well. So it's just been a process to adjust with the market from okay, man, people are doing computer labs to now they're doing iPads. Well, the iPads weren't going to proliferate. So Google comes along and has a Chromebook, and all of a sudden now you've got devices that are just they're expanding everywhere. Then COVID happens, and then everyone basically has a device. Right. So it's kind of now you don't need physical clickers, because all those devices could be clickers in our cloud. So we can still do student engagement, but what else? It's kind of what are the other pieces around that can really where the pain points exist, right? So it was still around data and making the data easy, because there are a lot of companies out there are they're doing data, but it's kind of a narrow application. It's it's kind of a one-trick pony. So having the data be broad and more more impactful is I felt like that was important. And then it kind of leads to the the market's interesting because a lot of districts, when we get to them, they say, well, we've got a data system or we've got something like that. And they technically they do, but because it's very, it's kind of at the 9 weeks level, we test twice in the fall and twice in the spring, and then we do our state tests, et cetera. And so you knew that what wasn't happening was progress monitoring, and what wasn't happening is this student really building towards truly understanding this, and they see that progress and growth over time. So a lot of our work has been in that space of trying to help them with the ongoing, which is basically what the clickers were. It's just we just pair it now with different collection strategies and devices,
right?
And in a cloud-based system that's we're able to make changes on the fly, which is add features, and it's not software that we're shipping. So that's made evolution and really evolution towards meeting stated district needs,
right?
More possible, and there's just kind of relentless focus on what are the pain points that users have, not what we perceive them to be, but what have districts told us this is a challenge, this is what we need, and we can build from there. So anyway, it's really about keeping your ear to the ground and knowing you don't have all the answers. Like that's where you get in trouble in any place in life, but especially when you're not listening. So we try to do a good job of listening and engaging in those conversations, so we make sure that what we're doing isn't just what we think is good.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That makes sense.
We all know those companies, right, that just do what they think that you want this, so therefore they're going to deliver that. And I agree. Being able to listen to and taking stock in what the customers really want and listening to their pain points rather than developing what's either easier or what makes sense in your mind, that definitely separates you guys out from a lot of folks. So I love it.
And now a brief commercial from today's sponsor.
Hey guys, Andy Bennetts, owner and president of Interactive Learning. Our awesome little company has been around for close to 20 years now, and our core purpose and mission is to empower the future of education with innovative solutions through engaging technologies and leadership programs. We are blessed to work with a wide range of markets, including K-12, trades, corporate, and government. Interactive Learning is also proud to serve our nation's JROTC programs with over 3,000 units and 500,000 cadets. For our podcast listeners today, we have a special offer just for you. It's called our Class Tech Discovery Session. This is incredibly helpful for teachers, administrators, tech personnel, really anybody involved in helping students learn with technology. Here's what you get with the Class Tech Discovery Session. It starts with a short Zoom call. We'll talk about your class needs, your wants, desires, really your class wish list of ed tech. Then we'll touch on your timelines and budgets, plus any constraints that your district might be facing. Next, we'll look at new tech and new solutions, the latest and greatest out there that might be applicable to you and your district. And if you're interested, we'll even demonstrate these crazy cool, cutting-edge technologies just for you. Finally, we'll give you an idea of costs and professional development and how we and our team will support you moving forward. Again, that is Interactive Learning's Class Tech Discovery Session. Request your session now by texting Discovery to 970-739-2229 or emailing Discovery to andy@intlrn.com. Request your school's highly informative Class Tech Discovery Session today.
And now, back to the Empowered Learning Podcast.
Yeah, they're just the customer the customer really does know best. And sometimes,
Mhm.
I've heard from people say, man, if you'll just do this one thing, well, it's never just that, but
Yeah.
that could build to more things. And then,
Mhm.
just from a company standpoint, you got to vet, you got to
Mhm.
say, okay, I hear you.
Mhm.
I need to run this by some more people. So,
Right.
because I haven't heard this, or I haven't heard this enough to say, okay, put resources
Mhm.
into this project or
Right.
this feature. So it's always a challenge
Mhm.
of balancing those things.
Mhm.
But we've those are kind of some of the guiding principles that we've had
Sure.
on trying to how you build and grow a company, and
Right.
you make it relevant and then you stay relevant.
Mhm. Right. 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 I would love to hear your take on this, just because I was very junior in the e-instruction days. I never got to the point where you even probably knew my name. But I worked with a lot of folks that had worked with you side by side. Steve was with you, sounds like, almost from the very beginning, which is kind of a fun thing, way back in the day, right back in Denton, and then Luke as well. Everyone, to a person, of the ones that have known you and your dad and worked with you guys for as long as they have, they all just rave about how just the culture and how much you care for people and how much they love working with you. So that speaks volumes to me. So I would love to get your take on I guess, how did you develop that chemistry, or that culture of just caring and working closely with your partners and with your team, and just what kind of people do you like working with, I guess, in that
Yeah.
whole.
Well, first of all, Alex, we knew your name from the beginning, so we
Nuts.
no, I'm just kidding. How's
Like,
it,
wait,
Andy?
what?
Just messing with
That
you.
was
So,
good. I was like,
yeah. There, no, so yeah, no. I think you're, and this kind of goes into the question that you're going to ask at the end on admiring people, but
Mhm.
um, the Jim Collins Good to Great, when they
Mhm.
profiled
Yep.
leaders, the ones that were kind of not the rock stars, but the servant leaders. That
Mhm.
servant
Right.
leadership mentality,
Yep. Yep.
I think, is something that you know that that resonates with people.
Mhm.
And so I think that was something that, while it wasn't okay, we're going to do this or that, whether it was Daryl or William or
Mhm.
the different people, there was always that no one's above doing anything,
Mhm.
and
Right.
we all pitch in, and so
Mhm.
there's and there are biblical principles in that of
Mhm.
the greatest among you will be your servant, right? And
Right.
so lots of and so I think there's that people like that. I think people,
Mhm.
they're drawn to people that are just normal and are
Mhm.
doing their best, but
Right.
that will that place a priority on people over profit and things like that.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
we're responsible in those ways, but
Yeah.
it's always going the extra mile
Right.
and doing what we can. So
Mhm.
that's one. So I think that's part of the culture. It
Mhm.
is that the priority of people and the priority of
Right.
servant leadership. It just makes sense, right?
Mhm.
And so anyway, we've always had that as, and just I just think caring for people and wanting to try to be people that schools, districts, businesses, federal would want to
Mhm.
do business with.
Yeah. Right.
It's a lot easier to do business with somebody that you like.
Mhm.
So I know that's we're not trying to be likable, but we want to be winsome, and you know
Mhm.
and really have an attitude that says, hey, we want to help you.
Right.
There's not because in the end you're serving schools, and those are
Mhm.
principals and teachers and students ultimately.
Right.
And if you don't have a heart for helping that 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 constituency, those those stakeholders, then you should be doing something else. So
absolutely.
That's when I said earlier, being on the side of the angels, that's a good thing. A lot of the work that we've done is in school turnaround schools, so schools that were under pressure to perform and to improve on a much more shorter horizon.
Right.
So we're and when those schools did see that improvement, it was extremely amazing and gratifying to know, hey, we played a role in that, and they did the hard work. It was their blood, sweat, and tears that made that happen. But we were critical to the work that they were doing, and so there's there's just that kind of that helping the humanity flourish in a way that they weren't without what you're providing, the way that you're helping. So I hope that answers that a little bit.
Absolutely. That was wonderful. So we've talked a little bit about all in learning. So I guess tell us a little bit about what you're currently working on, and then I kind of want to brainstorm with you a little bit about given your experience, what do you see the future? Where do you see the future going? But let's start with what are you currently working on with all in learning, and what excites you when you get out of bed in the morning?
Well, I think one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to make the data more and more usable. So a pain point that we've seen is what I'll call siloed data. So we may have a curriculum company that we have our reading through. We have a curriculum company that we have our math through. And then, we have science, and then I have my own assessments that I do. So if I'm a principal or a district trying to manage that, the principal may have 5 or 6 different programs to log into to try to get a line on where their campus is at. And so we're trying to we're offering to host for districts curriculum assessments that they have a license to. And it's just something that's a free service that we provide to say, hey, if you'd like for us to load those in for you and host them, well, now the principal will go to one place to see how he did today in math and reading and science and so forth. So there's that pain point, because that how that is. If I'm having to log into 5 different things, and this other teacher did it on pencil and paper, so there's no place for me to log in, right? I just I got to go physically see what that was. So I think that's a point, trying to be a one-stop shop, if you will. So that means integrating with curriculum. That means integrating with other data programs. So it's kind of that all-encompassing approach in those spaces to say, hey, we can be one place where you can log in and see some really critical data. So that's one thing. And then I think and this is evolving almost by the second is AI, and and it's a big bucket. It's like a blank canvas in a lot of respects, and it can go so many different directions. So the kind of a partnership mentality approach to that with districts, to say, hey, we don't know where this is going to go, but we want to be your partner in navigating it. And so I think that's where the AI is really going to, it's really going to be interesting. And so we got some ideas around it, and they've kind of been, I go back to, to kind of listening as we kind of did our proof of concept.
We're good.
You there? Okay, good. As we did our proof of concept around AI, and so it was kind of this idea of the students are writing, right? And so the ability to use the AI to grade, analyze their work, and come up with a score. So we did kind of some initial proof of concept and skunk work on that, if you will, and then I went and talked to people that I trusted, people that I've been working with for 10 or 12 years, and some of those people. And, they started to give us feedback and ideas and so forth. So we're doing that same process now. But it's a, kind of what we've said is that, hey, we don't know where this is going to go, but we do know that you want to have a company that you can partner with to navigate it. And so, so our, we heard early on, well, we've got to be able to use the rubrics that are the states are using to grade student work. So it's kind of like, okay, we just don't need it to tell us the student can or can't write, but it needs to be specific to the way that the state's going to look at it. And so one of the first things we did was we said, okay, we got to be able to take the rubrics and have them in the system and to look at it and say, okay, how does this grade against that? And then we got to design it in such a way that if, there's a product that comes out that's superior, well, we're not completely built around, one product. So there's a design piece that goes into that. And I don't have anything to do with that, but that's kind of the genius of the team here. That's kind of look at that to say, hey, this may be the best thing right now, but it may be garbage in 3 months. So we can't build around something that, we can't have flexibility around. So anyway, it's just kind of that. It's the same process applied to new technology. It's just a completely foreign concept for for most people. But some of those same principles of immediate feedback, saving teachers time, but getting them the data that they need to help students. And if you think about it, the conversations around this have been really interesting. One of the principals that we visited with, he kind of said, I don't know if I'd want the teachers. I'm afraid the teachers wouldn't be looking at the results, looking at the student work that much. And I said, well, I hear you. I said, but are they doing that frequently now? And I said, how many students do your teachers have a day? He said, oh, about 200. And I said, well, okay. I said, so they're not reading essays and providing feedback maybe once every 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And even that would be a Herculean task for that teacher. So the ability to say, what if we could write 2 or 3 times a week? That's what the research says. The research says is that students need to write a lot, but what that research doesn't finish the sentence, which is, and the teachers have to score a little, a lot. And that a lot is could be 200.
Right.
So, so I think I think it's the same thing that we did with the clickers. It's the same thing we did with scanning. It's like, there's an efficiency here that we can bring to bear. It needs to be thoughtful. It needs to be safe, so making sure that we kind of have our fortress, and the student data, their private information never leaves All in Learning. It's secure, bank encryption level data. But it's not, when we send something out to the AI, it's anonymous to the AI. So the AI is never has, knows who that student is, which is the way that we want it. Right. So there's safety and security around that. And, now it's, you've got so when you speak to districts, we're working with one really large district, and they've got a challenge around the teacher shortage. So So how do we, like, that's a pain point, right? So how does that get fixed? Well, okay, so if you're going to get a teacher shortage, the teachers that you're bringing in may be brand new. They may never have graded an essay in their lives.
Right.
Okay. And so giving them a tool that will help them learn. That was one of the first things that when I showed it to one district leader. She said, this will help our new teachers learn what good feedback is.
Right.
And so it's kind of, again, these pain points manifest in so many different ways that you wouldn't expect. So it's a matter of trying to synthesize those and then come up with a technology and approach that really can have an impact.
Yeah.
And then listening when things are, listening to say, how do we improve this? So it's kind of the never, you never arrive. So you have to be comfortable being on the treadmill that doesn't stop, right?
Yeah.
And so we certainly, it feels like that frequently.
Right. I bet.
But in a good way. So anyway.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to point out right here, because we had a conversation about this the last time we talked, is, yes, this it scales up their ability to give feedback to students, because to your point, they're probably not grading that and giving that feedback to them as often as they need to, especially for writing, right? Because that takes more time. But the other idea is, and I think this is a critical point to point out right here, is that you give 3 teachers, even if they're on the same, teaching level, right? All of them 10 years experience, you give them the same rubric and you say, let's grade this response. I would guess at least 70% of the time, they're going to come up with, at least different feedback, if not a different score, based on the exact same rubric, right? So the idea of standardizing this, of like, hey, we're going to have the same metrics for all of this, this is worth this many points, whatever the case is. So at least we're all operating from the same level. I do think that it's worth mentioning, because I think you had said before that it's really still up to the teacher. They can adjust, they can add more feedback. They can say, yes, but I'm going to bump up half a point because of X, Y, and Z. Always they get the final say. However, if we can vastly reduce the amount of work that it takes to get them into that ballpark where they've done a lot of the heavy lifting to that point, and then it's kind of spot checking of like, yep, that's good. And another one I wanted you to just point out, the what is that? The compiling of the data. Like, you look through all 200 facts of this, and there's certain themes that come out that, hey, you're not hitting X, Y, and Z. I'd love you to talk about that as well.
Well, the first to the second part there, if we can, we grade 200 essays in a matter of seconds, right?
Right.
But if now the burden is back on the teacher to go and read through the feedback for those 200 essays, we haven't really gained much, right? Like, we've gained some, but it's not what it could be. So now, kind of using that same concept of using the AI to go in and say, okay, what were the glows and what were the grows, right? And then what students are in the grows around theme development? What students are in the grows around, conventions and capitalization and spelling and things like that? So there's that element to it, that it's like, it's not just getting the first thing done. It's like, okay, what do we need to do now to really have this have the impact? That's one thing. And I think the other thing is true, is that sometimes when I encounter someone that's pretty skeptical around the AI, can this really help? And someone's going, well, how's it going to grade it, et cetera? The reality is, because we're dealing with humans on right now, and we're switching to AI, or we're merging the two in a thoughtful and considerate way. But if we're not coming from a state of perfection,
right?
That was to your point. I have 3 teachers. I may have 3 different scores. I may have 3 different calibrations around the rubric and the writing and everything. So so that the AI could be a fourth voice at the table, but it's going to be a quicker and consistent and specific voice that we're going to be able to do, because it may be, that Andy, you're a strict grader, and you grade with a cup of coffee in the morning, you knock those things out. I may like to grade at night, watching the ball game and consuming an adult beverage, and the analysis, our analysis of the student work could be vastly different.
Right.
Okay. So, using the AI to make that level, make it consistent. And, I was talking to someone today, and she said, a lot of teachers, they just have a big heart for those kids, and they want to encourage them. And, so I'm going to give them a little bit higher score than maybe they should have, because I'm worried about them if they get a 2 instead of a 3, that they may be really discouraged. Well, that's not how it's going to be graded on the state test or the AP graders, et cetera. So to your point, we've called our AI grading co-pilot.
Okay.
So there's a pilot, and the pilot's a teacher. And so it's not a hostile takeover of AI. It's meant to support. It's meant to facilitate. It's meant to speed it up, right? But it's not. It can't. It still has to have that human element to it, and that's what we try to. That's what we facilitate with our approach.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And I do think, and I guess that'd be kind of a fun way to kind of wrap this conversation up before we do our last key questions is, kind of, because you've had obviously a lot of conversations with educators all over the country, and you're going to have some that are leaning in, some that are leaning out, some that are skeptical. I guess having all those conversations, if you can kind of sum up, what are some fears? How would you address those? And, how do those conversations go when you have those people that are just, think we're going to Skynet and it's going to take over the world?
Well, I think I try to, that when we start out, we start out with the emphasis on the co-pilot, the teacher's still in charge. Well, and even before that, we'll talk about the safety and security, that there's no student information that's interacting with the AI. So, so there, we try to lower the temperature, the blood pressure around that piece. And so, and then just deal with, the logistics of, I can't expect my teachers to grade essays 2 times a week and give the students feedback. Right. That would be too much. Yep. And then, so one school we're working with, they're like, yeah, we only get to that once a month. However, the research says that, they should be writing a lot. And writing without feedback is not optimal. The students don't get the input that they need to try to grow and improve. So those are some of the considerations. And then the other thing that we try to do, as opposed to a program that's more curriculum based, they can apply this anywhere. So you may have humanities teachers that are fantastic humanities teachers, including in the social studies and the social sciences and so forth, but they're not writing teachers. Yeah. Right. So guess what? We can apply the technology there to their, so that it's strength on strength. Right. So that would be, so it's giving the schools the options and the versatility to say, okay, my big curriculum company may have, they may have some version of this, but we need this in other areas. So it doesn't help it to be so narrowly applied, if that makes sense. Yeah. So absolutely. That's where we can kind of be a go-between with those for districts in that regard. And then it's just like I said, I think the teacher having the final say, and the teacher being ultimately the pilot, but leveraging that technology, just like we talked about before with the 5-button clicker. They're leveraging the technology. It's not the way that we're doing this. This doesn't replace teachers. This enhances teachers'
Right.
ability to support their students.
Right.
And I think when you can kind of lay out that goal to say, you know, if you could have your students writing twice a week with feedback and interaction with the teachers, would that be valuable to you? And I think everybody would say, well, yeah, but we can't expect the teachers to grade that, and we don't expect them to either. It'd be too much.
Right.
So here's technology to help us get there, just like we've talked about. So, so anyway, those are they just dropped something today that's it's voice driven, and it's hey, ChatGPT, tell me a story. No, I want it to be more dramatic. So so it's voice driven. So it's going crazy places. It's going crazy places, and I think that's part of the understandable fear. It's like, well, golly, and it's going to be in every device, and everybody's probably using it right now. They don't even know that they are. So you can be anti-AI, anti-AI, but you probably don't even realize how much you're using it. So, I don't think it's Terminator 2 and in the movies. So I'm not. That doesn't keep me up at night. But it's if we can, I think one of the ways that we've designed ours is that when a student may have a big English language learner population at our campus.
Right.
And so if those students are responding to the prompt in Spanish, well, the feedback will be in Spanish.
Wow. Nice. Wow.
So for the ability for just something like that, like they need we can build on their language acquisition, but they need to be better writers now, and we can't wait for them to be excellent in speaking English before they can write. We can help them today. Right.
Yeah, I love it. Or that's not the right word. Language. Yep, in their original language.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not just Spanish. So
okay. Yeah. Good to know. Have you ever heard of the term FUD? FUD?
I remember a restaurant called Fuddruckers, which is
close. So
hamburger joint.
Right. In crypto space, they always talk about, there's all these people that are so concerned about or don't believe in, my marker is just not doing this, in crypto, right? They're doubters and all this kind of stuff. So it's basically fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Yeah.
That the same is true when it comes to was AI, is that there's all this FUD around it, that there's all this fear and uncertainty and doubt and all this kind of stuff. To your point, whether we want to admit it or not, it's not going anywhere, and it's only becoming more and more a part of our everyday life. The phones that we carry around in our pocket are using it to your point already and leveraging it. So I've always, and I say this probably at every other episode, but we have to learn to leverage, to your point, technology, not limit it, because trying to limit technology is like trying to hold back a wave. It's going to knock you over. You're not going to do it, and you're just going to get beat up in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Darren, this has been phenomenal. We might have to do this again, just because I don't think we even got to, half the stuff that we could have talked about, but just to leave the people wanting more, let's go ahead and wrap up this episode. And if you're interested in coming back, we'd love to have you back, and we can kind of dive into some other subjects. So as we wrap up here, let's go through the 3 key questions that we ask all of our guests. And the first one is, who is a leader that you admire and try to emulate?
Man, I think that concept of the servant leader. So, I have friends, I have family, so I don't know that there's a type of person, that I try to emulate more than a specific person, but anybody, especially on a large scale, that's willing to show humility.
Okay.
It's willing to, to be an encourager. So, there's, of course, the and the fictitious characters of that is someone like Ted Lasso, right?
Yeah, there you go.
That's he was so likable. So, my dad fits into that category. One person that I've seen, we've done a lot of work in Dallas ISD for 12, 13 years. Dr. Laura Garza led a massive turnaround at a extremely, in dire situation at the school from a performance standpoint, and got just amazing results. And so, but that comes from hard work and humility and leadership and all those things. So there are lots of people that are in that category. So that's kind of how that's how I like to think about that. So. And I think that's what Colin said in Good to Great, was that those are the people that ultimately win, are those people that have the humility, that have, they don't want to be a rock star. They want to see this thing happen. So that Good to Great is really stuck with me.
Right. So I literally, this was not even planned, but here you go. Your buddy Luke,
that was not planned,
has all of the Ward's team about ready to go through this as a book study. So I've read the highlights, but haven't done a deep study on it. So now it's confirmed in my mind that I need to dive into that.
There you go.
Love it. All right. Second question for you. Let's see here is, to your point, right? The AI aspect of things and being in a tech company where things are just constantly on the move. I'm not sure the best way that you're going to answer this, but what would you say is the most impactful learning that you've had in the last year?
It's probably I've Unconnected. Obviously, the All In podcast is it's like four guys that are friends, but they're all investors, venture capitalists. They've run businesses, et cetera. They invested, et cetera. But they've been It's just they take on complex subjects, and they take on this technology and investing, but also kind of geopolitical type stuff. So hearing I've loved they have diverse viewpoints. So hearing them work through these complex issues together, it's just refreshing to hear it. So they're not coming at it from a certain Fox News, MSNBC type perspective. They're coming at it from a first principles, from a so I've learned a lot listening to them. So they have, this week they had Sam Altman on talking from OpenAI talking. So they have good, sometimes they have guests, most of the time they don't, but anyway, that's really helped me in thinking through business stuff, thinking through current events, et cetera. So the All In podcast. So not that they need a plug from me, but but it's been really enjoyable.
I love it. You said business. What was the other one? The other aspect? And
investing, kind of technology. So they've been, and then geopolitical, because everything's geopolitical.
Right. Okay. Awesome. I'll have to check that out. Love it.
Yeah.
No relation to All In Learning, or
no.
Yeah. What's the likelihood? Huh?
They just got a good name. I'm not.
Yeah,
really
I guess so.
That.
I guess so. All right. Well, Darren, final question here. This has been very enjoyable. I really appreciate this. It's been very enlightening. I'm sure that our listeners will enjoy this a lot. But to kind of wrap this one up, how would you empower learning for future generations? You've been in the ed tech space for a very long time. You obviously have seen, to your point, trends come and go, money come and go. We know that we're not replacing teachers, but we can also, help to enhance what they do in the classroom. So what would you do? You could wave your magic wand to empower future generations.
Yeah, the ability, it's still that same principle. The first principle really of that student engagement. So because if I've got students that are falling behind, I need to know that today, and I don't need to know that when it's too late.
Right.
So my kind of if I could wave the magic wand, if the teachers were asking questions where they were getting data 3 to 5 times a class period as they taught, then I think the learning would. I think the research says that, but it's just human nature says that.
Right.
And like you said, when your student who never answered clicked in,
right,
and they got confident. They had success. We were able to contextualize a struggle much better. Hey, I'm not the only person that struggled.
Right.
So
right.
all of those things that kind of bring the human experience into that moment.
Right.
That's the magic wand that I would wave, and it would get kids that are reluctant or shy or struggling, get them out of their shells, and if we could do that, we'd have a fighting chance, I think.
I love it. I love it. Very good. I completely agree, and I will continue to bang the drum on all of those aspects as well, just as someone that is a disciple of that mindset as well. So, Darren, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This is going to be a fun episode. Can't wait to get this out, and thank you again for your time. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
All right. Take care.